the 21st of March, 2025. Coming up on today's Global Intelligence Agency Operations Report. The war in heaven was directly tied to our financial system. It appears buying and selling of souls was big business for the deep state as they try to become their own masters of the universe. According to the deep state, all they needed was to acquire 80% of human souls in order to start the Great Reset. And the Doji Department hands out stimulus checks, but the amounts keep changing. And what does it take to qualify? Well, happy Friday and happy day after the equinox. Always an interesting time every year. Every time the spring equinox rolls around. And this one was no exception. But there's a lot of information that I probably should disclose to you because it does involve you and how the world really works. But first, I guess let's go over a little bit of regular news. There have been a lot of people reaching out about the Doji Department stimulus checks and why would they hand out checks from taxpayer money. So it's tax time here in the United States. Taxes are due usually by mid-April, and then, of course, you can file extensions. But most people try to file by that time, and that gives them a little bit of cash flow. Normally, about 80% of that money would go to the Rothschild family, Ital. There's a little bit of a negotiation that's going on behind the scenes regarding tax money. And you know, of course, Doji Department has been stealing money left and right from all over the world as well. They also feel that they should have access to things which the Rothschilds are trying to give them. God bless them. They've been trying to give them access to things like SWIFT so they can steal all the money out of SWIFT, ACH, CHAPS system if you're in the UK, and of course other payment transfer systems around the world where they could siphon some more money. From time to time, they think that they have it because they are given codes by the Rothschilds, NSA, or somebody else that should, according to them, allow them access. As you know, the NSA used to have a lot of access to a lot of different things, and most of those things don't work anymore. But that doesn't stop them from trying. So as far as the stimulus checks, most of this money is coming from taxes that have been paid in by you. The qualifications are rather stringent to qualify for said stimulus check. Some people think it'll be $5,000. Some people think it'll be $1,400. Some people think it'll be $1,700. And they can't quite make up their mind how much these stimulus checks are going to be. So as far as qualifications, it's a very small window, as I understand it. I know people that have not qualified because they are $3.49 over the amount, and technically this person definitely is retired, doesn't make a whole lot of money, doesn't have a whole lot of pension either. So must be a pretty gosh darn small window. Now, you also have to be employed and paying taxes in order to qualify, which leaves out most of those that are on state assistance or Social Security and that type of thing exclusively, at least. So unless you are working and paying taxes, you wouldn't qualify. It's an interesting process. And there's a definitive reason as to why they're doing it. You see, popularity of politicians, especially those which are most all politicians, amongst the people is important. Now, you would say, oh, that's because we vote. And that couldn't be further from the case, although voting also counts as far as your buy-in to what it is that they're selling. And this is of extreme importance to the deep state. So handing out stimulus checks, you know, even though it be to a small amount of people, they believe works in their favor. You know, and at this point, they're pretty gosh darn desperate. So they're trying anything and everything they can to get all of you to buy into what it is they're selling. So for them, it, well, let's just say it all kind of ties into the financial system in a roundabout sort of way. And the reason why Marduk was so proud of his financial system. And it has to do with implied consent, essentially. And to some degree, we all know that the more money you have, meaning, sure, could you make it to the few $1 million level and that kind of thing? A lot of small business owners do. But are you going to make it to the $1 billion level? Are you going to make it to the hundreds of millions of dollar level without being approached by these people and offering you a deal in order to keep your quote unquote money or your debt instruments, your notes at the time? And that deal often involves, well, some pretty high stakes for the individual. We know that a lot of people that are running around this planet with that or having had that much money are members of the deep state. Essentially, they've bought in to their side, and they're called upon most often to do a lot of things for them, become bagmen for them, fund a lot of their operations and that sort of thing. Because, of course, what is yours is theirs in their mind. According to the Rothschild family and Rockefeller family and several others, big names that you know, they own all currency in the world. They own all money in the world. Not so much so. That was obviously owned by someone else. But when it comes to these people at one point in time, you never know who is talking through their mouth. That could be an AI system. That could be a being that is somewhere in the lower astral in the past. It could be anyone talking through their mouth when they speak. So who is really telling you that they own the financial system? You just never know, at least at that point in time. Now, we know that a lot has changed in the universe over the last few years, and as we go along, you're always informed. Maybe not always quite understand everything that's happening, but you're being informed for a reason, because eventually, at some point in time, all of this is going to make sense to you. If it doesn't make sense right now, for a lot of people it does. But telling you this information is really important, because somewhere in the back of your mind, if you are ever approached if you are ever approached by these people, this little niggling thought is going to be in your head, and then you're going to really understand what they're trying to do to you. And there are many, many programs out there. We've talked a lot about media and financial control and military and intelligence control, and of course their beloved savior programs that they run. But as you know, the war has been much bigger than that. And it's been a minute, but I have mentioned to all of you about the war in heaven, so to speak. And in the war in heaven, there was a lot of fighting going on between, let's just say, beings who have turned dark. You might call them archangels in your religions, if you are a religious person. Or eventually these beings became what you would call demons. Devil, Satan, those types of beings. And of course there's the 72 hierarchy demons that really did a great job during the war. And then on the other side, you have what you call angels, or beings that are pretty much exclusively dedicated to source in some cases. So on both sides, you have those that are dedicated to source and those that were dedicated to overthrowing source based on agreements of Lucifer. And of course, Lucifer led the charge against source a long, long time ago. You have a third group, though, and you might say, well, pick a side, one side or the other side. But if you look at human beings, even on Earth, you would say that some people are just completely oblivious to the fact that there is a dark force in the universe and a light force in the universe. They prefer to believe that there is no such thing. On the other hand, you have some people that are waking up. And there's a lot of talk about different alien races and that type of thing. And some of them you would classify, or others on the internet have classified for you, that these people are dark. And other people are saying that these people are good people. But unless you use your real discernment, it's hard to tell who is good and who is bad, because in a lot of cases, they'll play both roles. Now, during the war, there were many what you call fallen angels. And by fallen, these are the Luciferians. These are the groups that came to be lower astral beings, or cast out to hell, as you would say. And those are the beings that were dedicated to that side, to proliferating the dark throughout the multiverse, to eliminating Source in totality, blocking of Source from connecting to any beings of his creation, and trying to take over the entire universe, or omniverse, as we call it. On the other hand, you have those that continue to fight for Source. And although technically the things up there with Source are pretty calm now, there was a line drawn in the sand, meaning nothing positive could pass below the 7th layer, or 7th density of the lower astral, and nothing negative could cross over through the 7th density of the upper astral. And this is for the ones that have chosen the sides. On a rare occasion, such as myself, you find people that are of Source that have permission to cross there in order to return dominion of the universe to Source. So these are things have been done by permission, which I guess you would say is a blessing and a curse in some cases. In other cases, you have another group. So during the war, there are those that really didn't pick a side. Maybe they were kind of more for one side or the other side, but wouldn't really commit to one side or the other. Sometimes out of fear, sometimes out of, let's just say, they always want to be on the winning side. That happens a lot too. And they are beings with sovereign will, so they have the right to choose. Those that wouldn't make a firm commitment and fight for either side are what you call the fallen ones. So those beings, as the story goes, were condemned unto earth to roam the earth forever. There have been other beings throughout our history that we know that are, let's just say, stuck here with the rest of us on earth. So these beings, typically over the years, because it's been a long time, a lot of them have chosen one side or the other, or they lean that way. Very rarely do you find any of them not participating on one side or the other. And for a long time, a lot of them were on, let's just say, the dark side. Therefore, you could say they participated heavily with Marduk, Enki, Enlil, and, well, in some cases, the deep state. They also participated in rituals and those types of things, along with the covens. And they tried desperately to get those that were more on the positive side, let's just say helping humanity, helping us learn and grow, and go to Source, that type of thing, even if it was in a church or by any way possible, walk the walk, do good things, do good deeds. Generally, they're good people. So you have a group that's trying to do that. So one of the things that they were fighting about here, and have been fighting about here for a long, long time, is which side is going to win. And we have about, as far as human beings walking the planet, we have around 8 billion or so human beings walking the planet right now. And that is a lot of people to sway to one side or the other for such a small group. The ones on the positive side try to get the ones of similar caliber to turn positive, and the ones on the negative side try to get the other fallen ones to join the negative side. So this has been a fight back and forth for a long, long time. And to this day, we've often talked about the legions and those types of folks, and that they came and that there was a fight. And I know a lot of you were expecting these folks to take out politicians, and I was quite frankly, expecting the same thing. I was expecting to have them help us or help humanity thrive. But unfortunately, there are rules of the road to those of the fallen. Unfortunately, most of the fallen have also been cursed. So that means that it doesn't matter if you're on the positive side or the negative side, you are cursed by, at that time it was Lucifer, who cursed all the fallen ones in order to try to turn everyone to his side. So there are certain things you could and could not do if you wanted to continue to exist underneath the Dark Age and during the time of Lucifer's dominion on the planet. So when our legions finally came here, it was about a year or so ago, maybe it's 2 years ago in October now. It'll be 2 years, I think, this October. So when they did come, they did fight. Fighting being against those of their similar caliber. We were hoping to see more, and I know that there was an attempt in a lot of political circles and those types of things. But then again, you never know who is sitting where and who is being influenced by what at that time. At the time, we probably still had some Coven members floating around, definitely in places like the White House. And you don't know who is who. Meaning, some of these fallen ones, especially the dark ones, did participate with covens. They did participate with a lot of the coven masters. They participated with the parents. They obviously helped out Marduk a lot in his quests, so to speak, and that just being around those people would definitely have some influence over the average everyday human being. Sometimes they are seen, sometimes they are not seen. Sometimes they look like regular people. So, that being said, for a long time there were a lot more that were on the dark side than on the light side, simply because it's been a long game. And, the curse was very real for them and that type of thing. So, currently, at this moment in time, there might be as many as 4 million of them who are dark that are walking around this planet. Some of them are not permitted to interfere in the surface of this planet due to infractions and violations, that being said. On our side of it, we have somewhere around, almost 124,000 in and out of our lives. And as things change on this planet, they are getting freer and freer hands. Now, a lot of those were neutrals that have joined our side over the last few years as we progress. They can see that Source is coming back. They can see the changes that are happening, and they know it's only a matter of time before Dominion changed hands, which has been predominantly what has been happening since last weekend on our side. There are important things to understand about these fallen ones in the actual war. So although the war is not going on presently in what you would call heaven or within Source, the war still somewhat to some degree existed. And a lot of that existence of this war was no longer in the upper realms, no longer in the upper astral. But as it relates to Earth, Earth was very important piece of real estate for Lucifer. Even though Lucifer is no longer participating in the war, has gone back to source, and most of the lower astral beings have gone back to source, we're still been stuck with some of these fallen folks, which have caused kind of somewhat of a disturbance. Being disconnected from their quote-unquote master and general and leader has definitely taken a toll on them. They don't have the information or the knowledge that they used to have. A lot of it's been faulty. There have been times where we've run into folks like Daniel, for example, who was working with the Global Headquarters Group. And of course, there's been a lot of humans that don't have the best of intent anyway. So sometimes it's keep your friends close and keep your enemies even closer. And sometimes that's what these folks would do. The war for them has nothing to do, in part, with humans. Technically, I'm going to say they did have the ability to influence, but ultimately the end decision has been up to the humans. Doesn't matter which side they've been playing on. Ultimately, that is our decision as human beings on the planet. But there are a lot of deep state members, and this is the base root, actually, of how we got a deep state on this earth. So a lot of the deep state members obviously chose the Luciferian side. I'm not going to say all. I'm going to say all. All of the deep state members chose that side. They have been fighting for that side and fighting for human soul control for a long time. Their ability to control your soul has been the base root of their existence. If it wasn't for the fact that they were not humans, they don't get on TV and in the media, and they make songs with bad frequencies and all the things that they do to us, no one would care in the real war that they existed. Nobody. They feel that since there is no Lucifer, they and their little group of folks would surely like to be the rulers of the universe and take over the fight for their side. And this has been going on for a while now, and they've kind of haphazardly worked their way through it, trying to go against the grain of everything in the universe. And they used to have more power than they do, based on the fact that they had some dominion left over from Lucifer. And these are things that Lucifer took dominion over. There's a lot of talk like, oh, God turned dominion over to Lucifer. Really, that wasn't the case. It had to do with the fight and the war and playing fair and the game and the Dark Age and a lot of factors in the universe that came to pass. So the reason why the financial system was Marduk's greatest invention at the time, when it worked in their favor, was because the entire base root of the financial system was to indebt you, was to give you cursed money or give you debt instruments in exchange for tremendous amounts of energy that you would generate. They say that money is evil. And at the time, it was very, very true. Money definitely, by implied consent, they say it's the root of all evil. And I don't disagree in some cases. Like I said, we all have to do it. If we live in a city, we're not in the forest eating nuts and berries to survive with our family. We are participating in the financial system in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't mean that because you participated in the financial system that you are doomed and your soul is sold to Lucifer. That doesn't necessarily mean that is the case. But there are people that take money to a whole new level. And it's okay to earn money, and it's okay to spend money, and it's okay to even have a little bit of debt. So if you have a car loan or credit cards, that type of thing, that's not what we're talking about here. But there are people that take money to a whole new level. And I mean a whole new level. They will do anything to get it. They will step on anybody to get it. They will do evil deeds to get it. They will join crazy deep state clubs to get it. They will fight to be that person, that man, that woman, to who everybody looks up to because they have this money, this house, this car. There is a reason why money is one of the most powerful forces in the universe. Believe it or not, it is. Because it makes humans do crazy things sometimes. And I'm not saying that a good day's pay for a good day's work, or if you own your own business, I don't necessarily mean a wage. I mean a good day's work, honest work, deserves an honest day's return, so to speak. Now, we've been working really hard to remove all of the curses and for Source to take over dominion over everything, including the financial system. We are converting over to a currency system. The base root is gold for a reason. It has nothing to do with black gold or deep state's way of siphoning energy off of people. In that way, when money begins to flow and we don't feel a sense of lack as human beings, brought upon by our fear of not having things or our need or want to have things that we do not currently have. In some cases, people will do crazy things for even food to feed your families and your children. And, it's all about intent. And that doesn't quite count. But the financial system is a really big factor. The second most important factor, which we've talked about recently, is media, social media. Influencing you into doing things, especially as our let's just say our younger generations these days, follow a lot of what's trending. And there are a lot of pretty bad things being sold by influencers on the internet, including illegal drugs and other things that they're talking about. So let's talk about the souls. Now, clearly, in the past, there have been a lot of decisions made for us as human beings that we did not technically consent to. Some of it was from past lives. Some of it was things that we have done knowingly or unknowingly. Some of it has been full-on buy-in, into the deep states programs. Some of it just happens to be, maybe from time to time we got a little greedy, or we did some things that we possibly shouldn't have done. But when you cross the line. If it's you personally and the decision is up to you, which it has been for some time now, when you've crossed the line. And of course, there's always Source there to forgive you for things that you've done, and therefore redemption exists now. It didn't exist for a long time for humans without an intercessor, which is the reason why they create religions on this planet, because you can go directly to Source and ask for anything you want. Going directly to a person on any kind of a day, a holiday or otherwise, and asking for forgiveness from those people, well, you don't need to. Who are they and who do they work for? Think about that for a second, and who you're asking for redemption from. I'm not saying that gathering with a bunch of friends and family on a Sunday and going to a building and having barbecues and raising money and taking care of people and helping the homeless or feeding people that can't otherwise feed themselves or providing families with a leg up when they need it. That is what community is all about. And if that is the place that you choose to do that, then I think that's wonderful. And hopefully, whatever building you walk into, whenever you choose to do that, is directly related to Source. It's, you're going there for Source. You're showing up for God, for Source, however however you want to say that, it's the intention behind it and where you're reaching out to that matters. Okay, so at one point in time, unfortunately, we were at a place by implied consent or I would almost borderline say in the gray of actual consent. We were up to about, probably in the anywhere between 50% to 70% souls that were quote unquote sold to source. Now, a lot of you have heard of things like not source, Lucifer. Sorry, oops. A lot of you have heard about SESQV and, the Vatican holding all your souls and that type of thing. And that's not entirely true. They were intercessors, like I always call them, slave masters as human beings who were managing things and making sure that you were selling that in one way or another by creating all kinds of programs and intercessors and incredible media campaigns that make you strive for things that are crazy and outlandish and beyond your means and that type of thing. So at one point in time, that's kind of where they were at. Was that enough? Because on any given day, it changes. I mean, it could go from 72% to 50% on their side of it at the drop of a hat. So it's not like just because maybe one day you're on that level, and there's a temporary quote unquote ownership event that happened, you can always redeem yourself. See, that unlike these fallen angels or fallen folks, as we call them, was definitely not the case. The rules were different there. So where are we at now? I mean, it's kind of important to know. Most days we are, I would say probably less than 20%. You still have all your deep state people. You have your people that are excited about what they do. They love going to these little coven meetings and trying to weave black magic and, want power and control, and they're willing to kill people to get it. You know those people. We all know those people. We see them on TV every day. So pretty much to get into that kind of a power position within the world, you pretty much are gone. I mean, at that point, which is why, even for myself, I could care less. I don't even care about credit. I don't care about power. I don't care about really anything as it relates to that. What I care about is restoration, and that is the only reason why we're changing currency so that we can actually do that on behalf of Source. There's a lot of things that need to be redeemed, and it's not just human souls. That being said, over the last few days, they were expecting to create all kinds of events that would get people to buy in. So by a buy-in on their side, it's not necessarily that you did an evil thing or you did bad things or you think, I did this, at one point in time. I stole something at one point as a kid or something. That's not it. You see, buy-ins come in many different forms. And when they put a savior in front of you, doesn't matter who that savior is, or hero in front of you, and you are following that hero and you're giving all your power away to that hero, that is also a buy-in to the deep state. It's the reason why they put out programs like Nasara Jasara, Universal Income, and the RV and the redemption and, the Great Reset and all the other things you hear them talk about is because it's buy-in. But you see, if you're not buying into their savior program, there's not enough people doing that. There hasn't been enough people doing that. Like I said, even at the height, maybe they hit 70%. And A lot of that's because, well, you're buying into their media campaigns, whether that's a politician or that's a savior, or a religious figure that's a savior, or any one of their beings that is coming out and telling you they're the savior. And that's usually done by media campaigns. It could also be um, they're panels of experts. Oh, look at Elon Musk. He's now taken over for Stephen Hawkins as one of the world's experts in the science realm. These are also people that have portrayed themselves under the Savior program. So you just have to be pretty careful when it comes to who we follow, let's just say. Now, there's following people on social media, which is fine. You're following your friends, your family, people you find funny, or people that tell you good stories, or people that are giving you news, intel, information. That's fine. The program, though, of following was designed for you to worship to some of these people. And there are a lot of people out there that are the average everyday person, and we'll have to play that propaganda video again, but the average everyday person out there who is selling what they're telling them to sell, on the internet. And we see a lot of those people too. There's a lot of alleged people that used to work for governments and work for different departments in the deep state. A lot of them have bought into the fact they're doing good things. They're working for the white hats. That's what they tell them. I've met we're the good guys in my life. And I can tell you right now that a lot of those good guys have done a lot of bad things. And what I mean by that, sometimes these people will tell you they're going to turn a corner. They tell you, oh, we're going to fight the deep state. We're fighting. We're the good people. We're the good guys. But in reality, all they've really done in front of my face is really bad things. So you can't kind of lump everybody together. People are people. People are going to be people in the future, meaning, every person now has the right to choose for themselves what they do. So, as far as business or anything goes in the future, people get to choose for themselves. You're going to do this. You have a project. This is what you want to do. You do the project. You do it well. And then we all are friends. But as far as, showing up here thinking you're going to get me to do or manipulate me to do things for the deep state, you have lost your ever-loving mind. Been there, done that. And this is all from the good guys, quote unquote. So there are a lot of people in social media that are talking to these people too. And maybe they don't know any better. Maybe they've never had the experiences that I've had the displeasure of having. Maybe they think they are the good people. I don't know. And they put this information out there like it's truth, and, so-and-so is fighting this, and, make sure you put this information out there. And are they paying them for it? I don't know. But you can kind of tell when there's a trend. If everybody is saying the same thing, one of two things is happening. Either they're listening to other people's report and doing a summation of those reports or surmising those reports for you, or they're pretty much all on the payroll. That's one way to tell. You also have people that portray they're giving you messages from alleged positive beings. And there are a lot of beings out there that I know that are fairly negative, even walking on this planet right now, that are extremely negative. But they come and tell you they're the good guys. So just be careful who you're talking to, listening to, channeling, and make sure you use your inner discernment. Don't ask me, ask yourself. Because you'll know the difference. It'll feel different to you. And if it ever starts to feel different at any point in time, that's when you kind of got to make your own decisions. So right now, as of this moment in time, the collective securities and other things that they used to be able to utilize to leverage for financial purposes against souls that were sold to Lucifer to issue cursed money, that was a lot of information, you might have to replay that again, are not there. They have been trying desperately to get those back. They have tried to renew a couple of different covenants, one we told you about in the Kolyma region. The other one they've been trying to renew for the last 24 hours was a covenant for themselves with Lucifer. So we talked about the fact that there are the fallen ones that didn't make a decision to go with either side, but eventually over time they would lean towards this side or lean towards that side, whether it's good versus evil. Some of them would become evil and terribly evil, and some of them would be absolute saintly, wonderful beings, so to speak. So as far as they are concerned, the ones that are absolutely 100% firmly in Lucifer's corner are super excited he's gone. Now it is time for them to be the kings, and it's time for them to take over. So they're trying to renew covenants that Lucifer had with Source, or anti-Source, so to speak, and they've been doing this for days now. They have been hunting down old space junk, old bindings that were the fallen ones, so to speak, were bound to Earth because they would like to take over the reins for everyone at this moment in time. That's not going over really well, I can tell you that right now. But they would like to do that. They would definitely like to take control over everyone, all of the fallen ones that are left. The fallen ones don't necessarily look like flying around with wings people. They are humans in some cases that have incarnated in. So it's not necessarily that these folks are, how do I say it? Well, walking around like all holy ones or absolute demon-looking creatures. So that's not really the case. So you can pretty much say that upon the time that Lucifer died, that the war fairly well ended everywhere except for Earth. We're still fighting a lot of those people. In this case, we're fighting human beings that would like for all of us to sell our souls to the dark side. And that's part of the reason why they're ramping up programs like their version of the Great Reset. By Great Reset, I know that a lot of you are concerned about things that you hear from the World Economic Forum. You hear about additional pandemics. There's been monkeypox and the Black Plague and all kinds of another H1N1 and the bird flu and all kinds of things they're tossing around right now. And, it rotates every time they think they're going to get a substantial leg up and some money. But that hasn't happened. The generation of what they call money on this planet has changed, and it's not going to fund those things anymore. And this is part of the underlying war too. We have taken control of the currents. We have taken dominion over the currents, or Source has. So when I say we, it's yes, we all the positive people on this planet are participating, and probably even a lot of you, knowingly or unknowingly, are participating in this as well, where we are giving dominion back to Source. We no longer want to have any kind of dominion to the deep state. Therefore, we have to ensure that any kind of covenants that they have or had or tried to take over that Lucifer had are gone. And part of that is giving all of the dominion back. It's not just Earth. It's been everywhere. It's been the currencies. It's been the energy generation. It's been the essence. It's been the souls. It's been the ether. It's been turning the tides of the sequencing of computer systems and assembly processing of AI systems in order to ensure we are no longer following a sequence that is backwards. And you've probably even noticed over the last few days, it seems like, those days where you get up and the day drags, it feels like it should be at least 4 hours later than it was, uh, than it is, or it's just a feeling that you have. It feels like time is not moving fast enough or it's moving too fast. Sometimes that's due to a little bit of a fight of us changing sequences, changing the way currencies flow. And it could be just in one aspect of things and it just feels weird and different. So that's part of what we've been doing. So when we say we're fighting the deep state, it's not just the deep state, it's the whole origin of their existence, of why they live on this planet. So their fantasy of taking over some of this dominion of, of Lucifer is a fantasy, but it's a fantasy because Source said so. These people, they forget that there is a source, nor do they care that there is a source, because of course their goal is to become greater than Source throughout the multiverse, as it was Lucifer's. So I feel that we have definitely turned a corner in the last couple of days, as difficult as it has been, and happy to see them try to renew covenants with beings that don't exist. I'm also happy to see that they're trying to take over covenants that have already expired, because that means that we're doing our job. That means that there isn't any more dominion for them to look at or to take from us. Making sure that they can't renew any contracts for souls or even try to get any to sell. You see, on their end, they feel that there is a loophole, at least as it relates to dominion of Earth, if they can gain control over 80% of the human souls walking this planet right now. If they could get 80% of humans to buy what they're selling by Great Reset default, meaning they chip everybody and they force everybody into their social crediting programs and all of those types of things, and become even more oppressive than they have been in the past, they consider that a win. And that's why they're pushing so hard for these programs. This is the base root behind it, because they need 80%, and they believe that at 80% they can now control Earth, because they control most of the souls of Earth. There's those shows you see that with the angel on the one shoulder and the demon on the other shoulder, and which one wins is the one that you feed. And that couldn't be more true in the world. But at this point, Source is back. Source was forced by covenants and dominions and where he could go and what he could do. And I say he, so please don't take offense to that. She, but that those limitations and the gloves are off now. And that has to do with a lot of work that all of us have done. So I think, thank you for all of you that work real hard to ensure that they are helping bring Source back to this planet, because without all of you, we wouldn't be here. I also, now that you have sovereign will, you do have the right to make these decisions on your own. Implied consent doesn't apply anymore. So even if they implemented their social crediting programs or pandemics and lockdowns and all of this type of stuff that they're going to try to do, it doesn't matter to you, because what matters is it's your sovereign will and choice now. Just because you receive currency, that is a flow of the Creator, which you're entitled to as a creation of Source. It has nothing to do with their strange curses and programs anymore. As far as the fallen ones, they've got a lot of choices to make too, and they have been making a lot of choices. We have a lot more of them that are left, because a lot of them we have a lot more of them left on our side than they have on their side because a lot of them are being taken out. So, we have the right to do these things because there is no dominion. There is no order. There is no covenant. There is no right for them to be doing what they're doing here anymore. So for that reason, they have all been informed that they need to comply with what is happening or disappear. And we have been disappearing them left and right. At one point in time, they were about even, on this planet. Like I said, that now, as far as numbers are concerned, we definitely have the majority. They have the minority left here. And the minority is going to depart this planet very quickly if they don't comply with what is happening. They are not cursed anymore. They do not have the curse of Lucifer anymore. If they want to continue working with those people, then you go right ahead at your own demise. And there will be no mercy at this point. So that's pretty much what's been going on for the last several days. And the war has definitely got a little hot here for a while. But other than that, it's going fairly well. I know on their side of it, they're really hoping for something different. But, a lot of times if I'm not talking on the phone about what I'm doing or something, they start going crazy. The second I hang up the phone, like that means I'm stopping working, which is false. I work all day and all night when I have to. I am also seeing messages and alerts and those types of things come up as I'm talking to you tonight. So, no, that doesn't really work either. But as far as their agenda, it's not going to yield the ultimate end result that they're looking for, whether they know they're looking for it or not. A lot of them want control desperately of the financial system, and now you know why. It's not just about money. It's not just about money flow. It's the curse that came along with it and what they feel they can do to human beings with it and with control of it, whether they try to come out as the good people and the savior and get you to buy into these programs and make you worship those people. And I don't mean worship them like a false idol or false god or anything, but let's face it, there are a lot of people out there that look at that orange Oompa Loompa guy and go, that's our guy. I'm so glad he's doing such a great job. I've even heard it from people in other countries, and I am shocked because these people should be smarter. They should know what politics is by now, and they should know this is ridiculous. In order to gain more acceptance, because Americans are starting to question in some cases, not all, but some are starting to question what's going on there because it makes no sense. They had to come up with something to keep you on the hook. But unfortunately, that is not a hook anymore for them. It does not get them any closer to this 80% in any way, shape, or form. Actually, if anything, it works against their survival at this point. And I'm sure they'll be talked to by the remaining folks on their side that have all been informed over the last few days, if they haven't already, on how it really works now. So that being said, busy week. I'm glad that part is over. I hope that you have a better understanding of where the true origin of the deep state actually came from. It was beyond even Marduk. Now you know where Marduk came from and why Marduk did all the things that he did. And just know in your heart of hearts, Source has dominion over this planet. I'm sure if, Source definitely has dominion over you, is watching over you. And we are making great strides towards eliminating the darkness here. So that being said, That has been the report for the 21st of March, 2025, as glitchy as it's been, and I apologize for that. That is the deep state's fault. We got too many people trying to hang on our line. Yeah, there's another one. Anyway, on that note, I wish you all a wonderful weekend. Remember, stay with Source or stay in Source, I should say, or God, or however you want to say it. And keep fighting for the light. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.